the Women Unleashed podcast. Join us as we share with you the fun, confronting, wild, fucked up, epic, and raw side of being a woman in today's world. Nothing is off limits. Allow yourself to be inspired to be unleashed.
We acknowledge that we are recording our podcast on the traditional country of the Turrbal and Yagara people and pay respect to their elders past and present. We acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and contribution they make to this community.
Welcome to the Women Unleashed podcast. We have a very special guest with us today. And before I introduce Jess, I just want to say that Taylor is having her baby. Like, she's been talking to us about it for a little while now. We get baby updates, and whilst she's, caring for her new little cherub, we're going to be doing some guest interviews. So without further ado, Jess, welcome to the Women Unleashed podcast.
Thank you. Hello to your listeners.
Thank you for accepting my invitation. I think you have a lot to offer women, and with what you're up to, which is what everyone will soon discover. I just really thank you for sharing yourself on our podcast with our listeners.
Thanks, Britt. Thanks. So, this will be fun. Let's see where we go.
Let's dive on in. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, okay. Well, Jessica McElveen's the name. A little bit about myself. So I would say that I am, I've always been a woman who has a lot of questions. So I think that
you could be asking me most of the questions.
Well, I do like to do an interview. I like to ask the questions. And you know what? Mainly because I'm trying to discover more and more about who I am. So I guess who I am is really a person who is on a quest. So I'm just on a quest to understand myself more. And, the more I understand myself, the more I can understand the people I work with and the people that I serve, and also the people that I love, though, which is one of the most important things to me. Mm-hmm. So the fun little facts, I live here in Brisbane.
Have you always lived in Brisbane?
No, I haven't. So I grew up in Port Macquarie in New South Wales.
Oh,
and
okay.
I love that little town. So I left there when I was 18. And it's a beach town. You may have been there, listeners. I don't know have you been there?
I haven't been there, no.
Yeah.
No.
It's such a good spot. But I left there when I was 18, and then
What was your experience of leaving there? Was it can't wait to get out, or sad, but I got to go live my life?
I was ready. I was ready. So I left to travel overseas for the first time. So my friend and I, we left when we were 18 to go on a Kentucky trip, of course, right? Around Europe, classic case. And then I lived over there for a bit. So I lived in Jersey, which is an island off the coast of France.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's a gorgeous...
Do they speak French there?
No. So it's part of the UK officially still.
Oh.
So I have the Jersey pound. So I lived there for 4 months only because I injured my back and had to come home.
What were you doing?
Oh my gosh. So Chaz and I went to dinner the other night, which is my fiance. And so what I was doing, I was working in a sports bar, and you should have seen what I had to do each night. So just imagine the biggest rubber plates that you can imagine, right? The trays, and there would be 4 or 5 plates on this tray. And the kitchen was about 2 floors down from the restaurant. Each day, for literally 12 hours a day, I was carrying these massive trays of food up this spiral staircase, and then carrying these trays full of plates down the spiral staircase. And I'd already had ligament issues and disc issues before I left for overseas.
Okay.
And so this just triggered a war within my back. So one day I woke up and I couldn't walk, and I had to stay in bed for a week, and I realized, maybe
this is not the job for you.
This is not the job for me. Even though it was so much fun, honestly. At 18 years old, working in a sports bar where you get to drink every day, on the job,
Oh,
and
the
then you get to
best.
party at night time,
Yeah.
and everybody's just full of fun.
And they would have loved you being Australian,
we always get
female.
we always get a lot of good stuff when we travel. We get a lot of praise, us Aussies. Kudos to us.
Yes,
So it was a lot of fun, but came home.
Okay.
And so that's how I left Port. And then from then I've been traveling, and I've lived in so many different places all over Australia. And overseas as well. So I went back a few years later and lived in Ireland for a year, and then lived in various places all around Queensland. So I guess you can say that I'm an explorer at heart and a digger. I'm a digger
digger.
of truth.
Digger of truth.
Yes,
Oh.
in a nutshell, that's who I
That
am,
is saucy,
ladies and
Jess.
gentlemen.
Saucy Jess. Oh, so good. All right. Well, thank you. Now we have a little bit of a context of who you are.
Yeah.
What you're up to. Tell us a bit about what you are doing at the moment. Like, I know you've got a business, and I think a lot of I resonate with it. You know, every time I'm looking at your stories, I'm like, damn, she's good. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that, and we'll go from there.
Would love to. So my business journey started 5 years ago. And do you want the backstory of that, or just what I'm doing now?
Oh, whatever you want. Go for it.
All right. So started that business because I wanted to get out of the world of social work. I didn't like the system that it was, and I didn't like who I had to be in that system. So it just wasn't for me. I felt quite restricted, and also I didn't enjoy how we were viewing children in that system. So I decided to quit, and I was going to move to Italy. So I left. Literally, people, whenever Jess gets into a bit of a rut, she's off. She's getting a visa and she's gone.
And it's Italy, right?
It's always Italy.
Always Italy.
It's always Italy. So I got my visa and I studied English teaching, right? I became a qualified English teacher. Anyway, and then so I left and I just ended up traveling for 4 months, did a lot of adventures. It was incredible, but decided I needed to come back, and I got a thought, I need to start a business. So the first business I started was kids yoga therapy. And that was because before I left for overseas, I started getting anxiety and panic attacks, and I'd never experienced that before in my life. And it really scared me. And the one thing I turned to was yoga and meditation. And that saved my soul. That saved me. Gosh, it saved me. So I realized I want to support these children that have experienced trauma, but doing it through talk therapies is not the way to do it. So I decided, well, kids yoga therapy it is. So I came home, and then I flew to Singapore. I got qualified.
You had to go to Singapore to be qualified.
I did.
Oh, wow. Nowhere in Australia you can...
Not in the time frame I wanted. So when I've decided on something, I want to do it right here and right now. And I wasn't willing to wait around. And I thought, well, why not spend 14 days in Singapore?
And did you get like a full yoga qualification in that time, or kids yoga? Yeah. Okay.
So children's yoga and meditation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
and later on I would become a fully qualified adults yoga teacher, but that was a year later. So I did that course. So once I got qualified in that, I came back, and with my social work degree, I started the yoga therapy business, where I'd go around to people's homes and work one-on-one with kids. And I loved it. You know, these kids, the changes I was seeing, oh gosh, it just made me so happy.
Yeah, so fulfilling.
Yeah. One of my favourite stories is a young girl. She was 6, and she was nonverbal. As soon as they'd leave the house, she would not speak. And she would barely speak at home. And there was a lot of meltdowns and a lot of emotion, right? When we can't communicate what we want and what we don't want, there's a lot of internal struggle. So I started doing this body work with her, and I think there was 4 sessions in, and her mother emailed me, and she was like, Jess, you're not going to believe it. She is talking outside the house. She started talking to her teacher. She started talking with her friends, and she started telling us no. She started telling us what she doesn't want. And she said, for the first time, Jess, we're going on a family holiday, and I feel really confident that we're going to have a good time.
Oh, wow.
Because the meltdowns had decreased, because this little girl finally had the confidence to say what she wanted and what she didn't want. So completely transformed that family's life, and it's all through the body. And I just really started to get the importance of the body in who we are and how we alter our behaviours. You know, that body-mind connection is critical.
Yep. Yeah.
And so from there, I started seeing a different pattern the longer I was doing it. And with all the behaviors I was seeing, I was also seeing parents that were really struggling to know what to do with their kids. And I thought, I have a lot more to offer here, and I can see the pattern and I can see what needs to be changed. So I think it's time to go work with the parents now. So that's what I've done. Now I run the Happy Home Network, where I'm the child behaviour specialist and the family dynamic specialist. And I have a team of health professionals and experts too. So we've got naturopaths, we've got nutritionists, we've got EFT practitioners and Reiki masters and kinesiologists and nervous system specialists and various others. And we just get to support the families and the kids. So I work with the entire family, and it's really outside the box. That's what I love to say. There's always a disclaimer about when I work with families, and it's that I am outside the medical system. I do not teach the traditional methods. This is a whole family approach, and we're not just focused on the one child. So that's what I do now, and I create online programs. All of it's online, and I'll do in-person workshops. But of course it's coming from a place of why I do this work, and it's around my own childhood. Of course, that's what's inspired it. There is nothing more important to me than the moments where children and parents and families feel connected. It is the most...
I'm so gooey, like, just hearing you talk. I'm like, oh, yes.
And I still crave this myself, and I know I want to create it for others, because sometimes I struggle creating it for myself. And I also didn't feel that for many years of my own childhood, which is a whole other journey and learning, and why I'm so obsessed with human behavior and parent-child dynamics. And I just love that feeling. I love seeing parents and children just so happy with each other and connected, where they really get each other. The children feel safe to be happy, and the parents feel free without the overwhelm, just to be present and enjoy their kids. I just don't think it gets much better than that. And that's why I do what I do.
So what was the moment when you were working with kids in yoga that you were like, no, I've got to go to the parents, or I've got to go to the whole family? Or was there many moments? And
there was one very clear moment for me. I was working with this one boy. He was 8. And yes, he had diagnoses. And look, I have an outside-the-box opinion on diagnoses and labels and how often they're being given. But aside from that, he had ADHD and been told he was autistic. And I went into the home, and so I was working with him. And there was this day, and this boy was very overwhelmed and very emotional and very upset. And I can just see he just desperately just wants to connect with his mum, and his mum is so overwhelmed. She's so upset, and she is getting angry at him and yelling at him and crying. And I'm in the home, and I'm just watching this unfold. And she is coming from an absolute place of love but overwhelm and stress, because she just wants him to participate in what we're doing, because if he doesn't, then she has failed him, and he will not be a successful, happy, healthy boy in his future. She's trying to do the best that she can. And I also got in their interactions why he's behaving and reacting the way that he was. This mum was so overwhelmed that she was instantly to react. She was angry very quickly. She was frustrated very quickly. There was no understanding as to why he was behaving the way that he was. And she's just going off of the advice of the medical professionals that just say to her, he's a problem. That's it. That's all she's going off of.
Yeah. Wow. That's just opening up like Pandora's box, eh? Because whenever like I haven't had too much experience, but I imagine like, parent takes child to doctor, says child is doing X, Y, Z. The doctor never looks at the parent and says, okay, well, how are you? You okay? Never.
No, it's not in the assessment list. It's not there.
Fuck.
The parent-child dynamic is never assessed, and it is the one thing that needs to be.
Yeah.
And if there is anything that has an impact on a child's behavior, it's the parent-child dynamic. And this is not to make parents feel guilty, because this is just the parent-child phenomena. This is normal, natural. It's meant to be. We take the emotions out. That's just what happens. We can't deny it. We're not getting around it, people.
Why is it the phenomena? What happens in the parent that has this happen when they look at their child and they do something? Like what is it?
So in the 11 years that I've done this, and with all of the parents that I've worked with and with the parents I've coached, it comes down to two things usually. And the first things first is what we've been conditioned to believe as right and wrong. We are told when we were young, right? How we've been parented.
Okay, so how we've been parented.
Yes, how we've been parented.
Yeah.
How we've been led to believe people need to be, children need to act. How we needed to act for our parents to feel love, get praise, and feel connected. That's a question that everybody should be asking themselves. I always ask my clients, fill in this blank. For my dad to love me, give me praise, and to connect with me, I needed to be blank.
Okay.
And we need to ask this of ourselves with our mum and our dad. And always the answer to that is what annoys them about their children. So often parents will tell me, I needed to be a good girl. I needed to be silent. I needed to listen and never cause trouble. Okay.
And then
to get the love, the praise, and the connection. And when they see the loud, the defiance in their own children, it raises a whole world of that is not how you're meant to be. I reject that because I was also rejected for being that. So there's that. There's what we've learnt as a child of how we were parented. And then on the other side of that is the absolute terror of failing this little being that you are so emotionally committed to and attached to that they might as well be you and you might as well be them. Right? So
it's so personal.
It's so
like
personal.
Right here.
Everything is personal.
Yeah.
And if this child does not show the potential of being a healthy, confident, successful human,
almost everything that you wish you were, but
Yes.
aren't, if you've,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you failed. You failed them and you are failing yourself. So
Yeah,
the absolute
yeah.
terror of failure is also what brings on a lot of the triggers, the frustration, the overwhelm, because your expectation is to get it right. Right? The expectation, you want to get it right. And I get the desperation and the desire for that. I really do. But there are these parent-child phenomena that we need to understand to take away that pressure. And let's just deal with child behavior 101. And that's where I can come in, and that's where I usually need to come in, is to remove the emotion in that scenario and bring in just what's true for human behavior and parent-child dynamics. That's where the clarity comes. That's usually the two paths that create the overwhelm or the triggers.
That is so awesome. I know being a bonus mum, like there'll be things that my bonus children do, and I just get triggered, you know, and it'll be different things because it's a boy and a girl, right?
Sure.
And I've had a little brother and I've been a little girl myself. And if you're kidding yourself, in my opinion, if you think you're going to have kids and never be triggered by them.
So much.
Like, they are the trigger masters for you. So if you're not really sure how to deal with that or where to start, then people like you can assist with you with that, or just go do some personal development.
Yeah.
Like, actually go start self-reflecting.
Yeah.
And looking at yourself first. Don't address your child, because their behavior shows up inside of the space you create for them. So if you create a really anxious, hardcore, angry space, they will mirror back.
Yeah. Their mirror is really confronting. And I said this week...
Oh my gosh, it is. Yep.
I said this week that... So I've been studying, researching, working with, observing child behaviours and family dynamics for the past 11 years, right, or more. And do you know what is interesting is that maybe 5% of that will help me with my own children.
Yeah, because when you have your own, you're going to just have
Because
come
I'm-
across your own.
Yeah, I'm emotionally invested. So Jess, forget about everything that you teach, right? Now I've got
the
these
student
mirrors
of
to
your own
myself.
stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I have done so much work on myself to be as prepared as I can be.
Yeah.
Because, 2 years ago, it was a no for me in having children because I didn't want to face all of this stuff and it was terrifying to me. So I've done a lot of work. And
But as you just said, you actually can't be prepared.
no,
Like-
you can't. And so it's interesting.
Stop trying, Jessie.
when parents they give themselves such a hard time for not getting it right, and it's like, yeah, I mean, you talk to any other child psychologist or people that work with kids and that understand the child brain, it still doesn't help them with their own kids. We need help too. So I know that I'm going to need people around me. I'm going to need support, a mentor, somebody to
Yep.
bring in the truth bombs,
Yes.
just like I do for parents.
Straight
that
between the
objectivity.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to need it. And I'm okay with that. I'm not embarrassed about that. There's no shame for me because I just understand that that's human behavior.
Yeah.
Right? It's nothing personal. It's
how
not
we
me.
work.
That's just how we work. So
Yeah.
we either work with it or we work against it. We get
Yeah.
to decide that.
Yeah. Oh, far out, Jess. Thank you.
That's
Thank
okay.
you so much. That was just like a big bomb of like what Jess is and what you're committed to. And I think, I don't know, I can't stop hearing about it, like, because I just see so much of heartbreak out there because parents and children can't communicate, and it's because parents dealing with their own stuff, and when I've been dealing with my own stuff in front of my bonus children, like it's heartbreaking, but you got to be responsible for it because those little beings they're just unleashed love when they're born. So you just got to remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. You do.
Amazing. All right. Well, everyone, we'll be back. Jess and I will be back for another couple of episodes. So thank you for listening and have fun sharing what you've gotten for yourself out of listening. Our goal is for our content to reach as many people as possible and become the #1 women empowerment podcast in Australia. Our call to action is that you contribute to the women in your life by sharing this episode, subscribing to our podcast, and giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Bye for now.